Before we begin, a bit of a disclaimer. I think you might know this one already, but before we start tonight's program, this is a reminder that this episode will address various topics to mental health and physical health, plus a reminder about multiple sclerosis as well. These may be sensitive to some of our viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. We remind you to please consult your doctor, your mental health professional, your outreach group, your sponsor, or specialist before adopting any change to your dietary, physical, and or mental health regime. If you're looking for options with respect to mental health, contact SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, at 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357. The service is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and is a confidential free information service for individuals and family members facing such stressors. Importantly, if you're feeling suicidal crisis or emotional distress and need to be put in touch with a crisis center, call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. Or go to suicidepreventionlifeline.org. You can also text the word HOME to 741-741. Those resources are also available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And then, of course, we must talk about the thing that has been part of my life now for the last 7 months, and multiple sclerosis. I would say definitely paramount in my mind and my heart. The National MS Society is a collective of passionate individuals who want to do something about MS now, to move together towards a world free of multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis is comprised of unpredictable and often disabling flare-ups of the central nervous system. Such flare-ups disrupt the flow of information within the brain and between the brain and the body. The National MS Society is the largest private funder of MS researchers in the world, investing more than $1 billion to date. MS stops people from moving, but the National MS Society exists to make sure that MS doesn't. To contact the National MS Society, please call 1-800-344-4867. Once again, 1-800-344-4867, or go to their website at nationalmssociety.org. Also, of note, we are still raising money for the National MS Society through a Venture to a Cure's fundraising page at rebrand.ly/aventuretoacure. This page was created in conjunction with the virtual MS Walk on May 1st, and the page will be up through September 30th. Thank you for all of you who have donated money to this amazing organization. It touches me and over the 1 million people in this country that have multiple sclerosis in so many ways, and I appreciate all of you. As I go through this journey, I am amazed by what the National MS Society does, but also the outpouring of love and support that the National MS Society garners. I am very thankful for all of this. And on that, let's begin. Good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you may be, and welcome to the Venture Forward. I am John Venturini, a recovering addict of overeating, obesity, compulsive gambling, and alcoholism. And it's an honor and pleasure to see all of you tonight on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Tonight's episode is going to be a very curtailed episode for a couple of reasons, and I'll get to that in a second. As you may have known through this story with the multiple sclerosis diagnosis and whatnot, the thing that everybody has been urged to do in this world has been something of a bit of a challenge for me because of the medications I am on, and that of Ocrevus. There is a 12-week period between the infusion of Ocrevus, or Ocrevus, or however you want to pronounce this, and when you can take the vaccine. Well, that window has expired, and yesterday I got the vaccine. I opted to go with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine because it's one shot, and there's a bit of some mounting evidence that it does quite well against the Delta variant. I would find it just as analogous to Moderna and Pfizer as well. I think the more data that we have, the more we know about it. I'm far from an epidemiologist. I might have taken 2 or 3 classes on epidemiology, and I do have a statistics degree and a mathematics degree. So I do know things about odds ratios. I do know things about control studies and the whole nine. I also know how beneficial vaccination is for a lot of the world's diseases over time. It goes back to, you go polio or hepatitis or what have you. You know, the thing is, it's a very tough decision because there are folks out there that are in a position where they can't. Their immune system is so compromised where they can't get the vaccine. After consultation with my doctors, plural, doctors, it made sense for me to do it. So I did it yesterday. The reason why this episode's late tonight, at least getting it up on Restream and the whole nine, is I'm running a bit of a fever right now. I have a bit of a 100, the last time I checked, 100.5. Not terribly bad, but a bit of a fever. But I know that when you get the vaccine and you have symptoms like fever and ache and whatnot, they are signs that the vaccine is actually working. So I feel very bona fide in what I did. I know there are many people out there that, I would say many people out there that have a very specific opinion about it, and that's fine to have that opinion. However, I know I have responsibilities where I have to be vaccinated, where I have to go to various events and various customers and various prospects, to go to campus, the whole nine. So I really have not much of a choice to say no. So I went ahead and did it. And be it as it may, the symptoms will probably last a couple days or whatnot, and I'll get better. And it ebbs and flows, clearly. Knowing my regime of late, and I would say of the last 6 months at least, I felt at least able to spend some time on the treadmill. So I did that. Did I overkill it? No, far from it. You always listen to your body when you do things like that. And we're going to talk about the importance of that in the second half of this episode. And at least we're going to start talking about the correlation between physical fitness and mental fitness and how important the two play heavily apart. But before I do that, I'm going to say hi to all of you on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We have Sarah over on YouTube. Really glad you got the jab. I really am glad I got the jab as well. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for joining us tonight. She continues and says, I have immunocompromised people in my life. Anti-vaxxers are a serious problem for them. They are. They very much are. And the thing is, you're not only getting the vaccine for you, you're getting the vaccine for everybody in society. You're getting it for your neighborhood. You're getting it for the places you're traveling. So it is really important to go ahead and do that. Now, I know there's a hard line thing about epidemiological numbers and about odds ratios and this, that, and the other thing. But if you're offering vaccines and there is a good prevalence of the vaccine working to a certain degree, especially with a variant that will be breakthrough, but basically provides basically sort of a safe haven for those that do have the vaccine, that the medication or the stays in at an urgent care or whatnot are not that terrible. This is what we do. And when you have an employer that says you should get the vaccine, there's a reason why they say that. If you work for a school system that says you should get vaccinated, there's a reason why this is happening. So, Sarah, you nailed it by calling them anti-vaxxers. It is a serious problem. Now, again, if there's the very rare situation where your immune system cannot handle the vaccine, then I understand that. I always thought that perhaps maybe there should be some sort of system with NIH or CMS or whatnot that basically has a sign-off for people that have very compromised immune systems that cannot get the vaccine. That system has not been created yet. But there are people out there that have that. And I am far from saying that they don't have a right to feel that way. They have a right to feel that way, without question. But knowing what I know, knowing the people that I associate with, people I hang out either professionally or personally or whatnot, doing what I did yesterday was the most important thing I had to do. Elo says, yo, and I say to Elo, yo, how you doing, Elo? You say goodbye, I say Elo, Elo, Elo. And Sarah says, you may be feeling better tomorrow. I certainly hope so. A good night's sleep would definitely help towards that. And Elo is saying congratulations. And Elo and Sarah say hi to each other. So that's basically why you saw a vaccination card on the countdown, because I got vaccinated. Is it going to be something where I keep a close eye on? Yeah. Is it something that my PCP and my neurologist is going to keep a close eye on? Absolutely. But at this time, given where we are with the state of COVID, we have to do this. Because golly knows after the Delta variant, what else is going to be there? So we have to do this. Sarah says, the more people who don't get vaccinated, the more opportunities for the virus to continue to mutate, especially when the Delta variant is so infectious. You're spot on. You're spot on, Sarah. We have to be really careful about this. And at this point in time, it's more than trying to figure out what my stance on things are. What my sort of and I wouldn't even say political stance, but what my stance on the vaccine is. If the doctor I go to says that I should, or if the doctor system or hospital system that my doctor works with says I should, and there is no rare exception on why I shouldn't, guess what? I'm going to do that. So that's where we are. Dr. Elo says, I have been vaccinated since February. Crazy like time flies. It is. And yet this is something that we're going to have to keep on top of because of the ever dynamic nature of COVID-19. Ingi joins us on YouTube. Ingi, how are you? Ingi just got her first dose last Wednesday. Ingi, congratulations. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Pfizer or Moderna, if you want to tell me in the comments. That was another topic that came up when I was telling people, hey, I got the vaccine and I got the J&J. I got the 1-dose J&J. And people were saying, whoa, you heard about the blood clots and this and... Well, like, do you see the rare exceptions where those blood clots took place? Do you see the extenuating circumstances in which that is the case? And moreover, if you read the NIH and you read stories and you read all the journal entries, you know that sort of thing affects a certain demographic. So yet, don't pretend you're an epidemiologist to start saying these things when there is really good information out there that is not spun by news that can help you on this. And granted, is there a little bit of spinning within medical journals? A little bit. But a trained eye can tell you exactly what is going on and what's not going on. Ingy took the Pfizer. So, yeah, there you go. Sarah has been vaccinated for a while, Moderna. Now she's going back to masking, as the CDC says that we should probably be masking again in public places. So that's a thing. Whether or not that's going to be embedded into, I'm going to keep this local for a second, if that's going to be embedded into the Commonwealth of PA, I'm sure we're going to be only days away from that. We've been kind of been on a cutting edge as far as that sort of thing. But when the CDC says something, and the National Institute of Health says something, we have to pay attention to it. These are doctors, these are epidemiologists that are working for our health. And not only our health, but the world's health. Because our health does affect the world's health, as much as every other organization across the world of the same sort of epidemiological, medical sort of nature is working for the same sort of directive. Sarah says people don't understand math and statistics. Yeah. it becomes blatantly clear. And it doesn't matter what segment you get your news from. Again, I don't look left, right. I look down the middle. You know, you ask people, hey, is he red? He's blue? No, I'm purple. Actually, I try to form my own opinion. You know, it can get so deep rooted and so, I'm going to say this and I apologize for saying this, it can get so bastardized by politics that what are we missing out on? I don't know. Life. Humanity. Our safety. And it's almost to a certain point where you wish you can just stand up and say, hey, can you just think about this for a second? Without watching the talk piece of your choice. And do some research. For not only your sake, for everybody else's. Elo says, same here, masking for the win. That's where we are. That's where the reality is. Sarah says, rates are spiking in all 50 states. Our rate of increase is now higher than India's, where the Delta variant was a hotbed from the beginning. It's now larger here. What does that tell you? It tells us that we have to be really careful. It tells us that when biopharma has worked really hard to go ahead and find vaccines to help us, whether by what methodology of choice, it depends on the variant, or not the variant, but the manufacturer and the vaccine of question, and the protection against all variants is what I meant to say. We have to put some trust in that. And any sort of crazy sort of conspiracy theory sort of thing that goes about that, we don't have time for that. We absolutely don't have time for it. Our society, humanity, doesn't have time for that. So it's time for all of us to grow up. It really is time for all of us to grow up. Sarah says it tells us we need to teach critical thinking and media literacy in schools. I would say well beyond schools. I say that goes well past the classroom. Because I think there is a thing or two about media literacy and critical thinking that our entire country, our entire society, our entire humanity can learn. And this is not only an American thing. This happens all over the place. It's just using common sense. And again, he says, growing up. So, that happened. And I think the most important thing that I'm thankful for is the fact that I have been trying to fix myself over the last 31, 32 months. The fact that I am in a much better physical condition. Given the fact that I am journaling and I'm seeking therapy. I'm doing all the things I can to make sure my mental health is in the best possible condition. Because there's a lot of correlation between physical health, fitness, physical fitness, and mental fitness. Absolutely, sorry. Grody up is exactly right. gives me a chance to say this as far as that sort of correlation. This is from the NIH. That exercise improves mental health by reducing anxiety, depression, and negative mood, and by improving self-esteem and cognitive function. Exercise has also been found to alleviate symptoms such as low self-esteem and social withdrawal. If you think about a lot of the neurological things we talk about on the show, whether it's multiple sclerosis or what have you, there is also a very large benefit about being physically fit and physically active if you have the opportunity to do so. If the lesions are in any sort of situation where you can be physically fit, it's absolutely told to you by all neurologists that you need to do the best you can to remain physically fit, because there's such a correlation to that. There's a correlation of blood flow. There's a correlation of dopamine. There's a correlation of serotonin. There are a lot of things at play here. And when we don't have those things, we talk from a very depleted state. We don't think, we think from a very depleted state, in other words. So there is a hard line that is connected between physical fitness and mental fitness. That's why you'll talk to people that go to gyms, that they go and do yoga, which is very much a meditative sort of exercise. The fact that meditation is a very important part of the story. The fact that when I can do something that is basically a recovery workout, like a 3 mile per hour walk, or 2.8, which is really slow, but that's not the goal of trying to run as fast as I can. The goal is to try to just be able to think clearly. There is a huge correlation between the mind and the body. Next week, we look to have a guest that will talk more about that, in the sense that physical fitness, by way of personal training, is only but one chapter. But there's also a lot of the work that goes on beyond that, as far as trying to figure out why you do the things you do, and being one with the things you do, and being absolutely objective, but also serious about the things you do. In other words, if we talk about the stories that we've talked about with the obesity and the alcoholism and the compulsive gambling, there were things in my life that were causing me to do those sort of things. Things that were absolutely not healthy. We refer to an internal family systems term in that of firefighting. There was a lot of firefighting going on. And it's a question is, do we continue to have firefighting in our life, or do we look to find managers, things that can manage those gaps but put us in a better place by way of exercise, by way of journaling, by way of yoga, all of that. So there is a very strong connection between the two. If we look at where we are right now, going back to the top story, in that of the pandemic, notice I didn't say the Backstreet Boys reunion tour during this entire episode thus far. What does that tell you? Given the fact that we have called out the importance of these things as far as fighting something like COVID, it's very important for all of us to be on top of this. It could be something, and this is going to be the obvious statement of the half hour. It could be something that causes great division. But if we think about things rationally, and we think about things not only with our mind, but with our heart, with the two working in tandem, a lot of great things can happen. There's really no reason to try to pick apart everything. There isn't. When you're doing that, you have to start asking yourself, well, why do I feel the need to do that? Why do I feel the need to be someone who's never happy? Someone who's always cantankerous? Someone who's just not having a good sort of look at life, as we would say from Winnie the Pooh, the old Eeyore, but I would say more cantankerous than that. You'd want a pet Eeyore. You don't have an Eeyore that's looking to basically be very violent. So we have to realize why these things happen. We have to realize why we are in that sort of mindset. If there are things and people and places in our life that are causing us to be that way, and you realize it's a problem, here's going to be a very obvious statement. Remove them. Remove them. Because you could have open and honest conversations about these things. Or you could put up the very, very tall walls around these things. But at a certain point, even the sort of rational thought you come about doesn't work anymore. So the best thing you can do is put yourself in places where you can foster wisdom. You can foster love. You can foster a path forward. Dare I say, a venture forward. Shameless plug for the show. That's what this is all about. So that sort of connection between the mind and the body, but also doing the best thing you can for your own health and public health is all part and parcel with each other. Anyhow, I know this wasn't the long episode that we were all expecting. And next week, we're going to do a longer episode about the different sort of chemical reactions between physical fitness and mental fitness and emotional fitness. Hoping to have our guest on next week. If not, we could talk to it from another guest. I have a couple of guests lined up that can talk about it. And these are people that know the story left, right, and sideways, because these are people who live these things. They're not only just academics. They're not only just trainers. These are people who live these chapters in their life, that have a thing or two to say something about something so powerful and pivotal, such as that. Ingi says, and nailed it, really caring for yourself. Yes, really caring for yourself. It's more than self-love. It's self-care. It's doing the healthiest things you can for yourself. And then if you're finding yourself in a situation where you're doing things that have a sort of negative spin to it, you have to start being very open and honest about these things. Now, I'm not going to be the one that's going to go on here and say no one should drink. I'm not going to say that. But if you have a compulsion problem, you definitely shouldn't drink. But if you're finding that you're drinking way too much and there is no satiation with one drink, here's another hint. Don't drink the second drink. Figure out why that second drink is gravitating to you. And that goes back to mental duress, doesn't it? I think this is time for me to bring up the graphic once more, and normally I don't do this, but I'm going to do it. In that of SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. That's an organization that looks at these sort of things, whether it is alcoholism, whether it's drug use, whether it's this or the other thing. And it talks exactly to finding the right resources for you to go get help. Number for that is 1-800-662-HELP, 1-800-662-4357. And tied to that is suicide prevention for those cases that are a lot deeper and a lot more distressful. In that of 1-800-273-8255, suicidepreventionlifeline.org, or texting the word HOME to 741-741. So this is the sort of episode where we were all over the place. But this is also the sort of episode that I walked into this episode with a 100-degree fever. So I guess there's a good reason for that. But what we will do on Friday, as we normally do, is have VF Talks at 5:15 Eastern, 2:15 Pacific, where we talk about anything and everything across this wonderful community. But until then, I'm going to say the same thing I say to you at the end of every Venture Forward in VF Talks. Stay safe, stay sane, stay strong, stay sober. You're worth it. Have a great night. We'll see you Friday at 5:15 Eastern, 2:15 Pacific. Good night.
Bye.